business. We had some discussion of meeting dates last time, because I know we said that we would be skipping 2 weeks, correct?
Correct.
Amy, did you have something else to say on this, or?
So, well, we taught we were gonna meet, you guys wanted to meet on every Thursday except for the last 2 Thursdays of December. We have to move out of this room for next Thursday because the Airport Advisory Board has this room taken. So for next week, we will be up in the Moffett room, which is upstairs.
Okay.
So we'll have you all probably come to the front door next week and we'll let you in. We will be able to live stream from there. It will be a little bit tighter, but it's the best we could do because every other night that week has a different meeting, and then Ash and I discussed it, you probably didn't wanna come in on a Friday.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of the 2 holiday weeks, so.
Yeah, and then we didn't wanna push it into the next week, cause then we're pushing to holiday weeks.
So if everyone's okay with that, we'll meet in the Moffett room.
Sounds good.
And then we do have an issue with the 3rd Thursday of every month, Airport Advisory Board meets in here. So an alternative that Ash and I discussed was that you guys, if you do plan on having a meeting that week, we would meet on Wednesday of that week in here.
So the third week of every month, we move it one day forward. Starting in January, so starting in next year.
And we would make that clear when we publish the agendas, obviously, and put it on the town calendar.
That may be a problem for me, but that's all right.
That would be
I
January
just wouldn't be
18th.
here.
Are you, so that's when your other advisory board meets?
No, I've got another meeting on Wednesday nights.
Okay,
Yeah, I may have issues with childcare Wednesday, but it'll be very sporadic, so shouldn't be much of a big issue.
Okay. We can take it more, like, if we know in the week before and it's gonna be an issue, we can attempt to juggle a little bit better than, either we can make it we can try to make that one an all virtual and just do it that way. If that works, cause you said as long as we've got notice, we can do an all.
we can,
I wouldn't do that for me though, since it wouldn't make a difference.
Okay.
Well, if we did it on Thursday night, I'll
Oh yeah, Thursday night we can
Yeah,
go over.
Thursday night, we can do an all virtual.
That would definitely-
my only, and this is just a personal, virtual meetings are much harder to encourage dialogue amongst each
Okay.
other, so.
So I'm open to any other suggestions.
I can offer up, excuse me, the church across the street.
Well, the issue with that is live streaming and
Yeah.
such as that. We
Well,
don't have,
Needs to be a public building too, I think.
Yeah, it has to be public, public has to be able to come in and.
The fellowship hall, we can open it up. It's it's not a government building, but it's a public enough building that we can open it up.
so the one on Holbrook?
Right across,
The-
yeah, right
that
across the
way,
street,
the-
yeah.
The big one behind the big hall,
What about the boardroom?
that takes more staff.
At least 3 additional staff to run it from the boardroom.
But if it's once a month, it should be okay.
I mean, we talked about doing some boardroom stuff anyway in order to allow public comment, and what we're about to work on in the next 3 sessions with form of government and elections might draw some comment.
That's, I mean, that is up to you, we can make it happen, this is the staff for our department, we would have to coordinate with
The other departments.
the other departments, but if we need to, starting in,
January 18th, I think Debbie said, right?
yeah, January 18th is the first one.
I mean, that does sound reasonable once a month if we had a public comment or encourage public comment. It does take more staff, but it would
It actually be good.
invite people to come in during the process and not just right at the end.
I'm okay with that.
So you all are requesting to do the 3rd Thursday
Thursdays in the boardroom.
in the boardroom,
And would we need,
okay, and that would be more, would you want us to, not bill it, but, advertise it as more of a, please come and see what we've done so far, so it invites more public comment, I mean, we always have public comments.
This is, yeah,
Right.
public comments at every meeting.
But I think, yeah, we'd wanna advertise it as a more like, you know,
Interactive.
yeah,
We need to.
like we put public comment as a larger part of the agenda for those days.
I think that's a good idea.
We're talking about only 3 or 4 meetings.
You can see how the first one goes.
Yeah.
You don't get much
Yeah,
comment then.
let's aim for it at least for January 18th, and then we'll,
Adjust.
yeah, we'll see if that works for us, and if we get enough interest in everything and it seemed helpful, we'll continue it on for February.
Okay,
And that would be the 19th, right, because we're sticking with Thursday?
Thursday,
Yes.
19th.
thank you, I was writing 18th.
There's that power dynamic too.
Are you trying to just map out all of the dates?
But we sort of have to.
We have to get them
Because we-
publicized, I mean, we've got it kind of, we will put them on the town calendar now that we have the one Thursday figured out, we will
Okay.
make sure they're all loaded up on the town calendar.
Okay.
So it'll be the 19th, the 16th, the 16th.
Yeah, so they're already loaded on the town calendar.
Not, except the
Except
third-
for the third
third
Thursday, because we weren't sure what was gonna happen with those. So they're
Now-
already loaded on the town calendar.
If we're gonna go this far out, March 23rd is school, spring break.
But it'll be the 3rd Thursday, right?
That's the third.
Oh,
Thursday.
so you're talking
That's
about
the-
the 23rd, just canceling that week.
That's at least Saint Verrain school calendar. And
Yeah, that
actually
is.
the 5th of January is also, but that's getting close to the end of
Yeah.
Christmas break,
Well,
so.
I mean, you all can cancel them as you get into it too.
Okay.
If you decide the meeting before, we can cancel it on the
Yeah.
calendar.
Maybe we'll
as
be
well.
done by then.
Optimism.
Someone's optimistic.
Let's do it. Let's pull an all-nighter and do it now.
I think our town staff might have concerns there.
Yes, we might.
Or just change the name of the town to someone else who already has a chart.
Done.
We're now Eagle.
Do you, is this helpful at all? Good enough.
Okay. So yeah, we'll aim for boardrooms for third Thursdays. We'll probably reassess or cancel for March because that's in the middle of spring break. But we'll leave it on the calendar for now. Okay, anyone have anything else regarding meeting dates? Any concerns or issues? No? Okay, then I had requested we get a community room AV tutorial, just so we don't have to be emailing links or documents around and someone can like share up on the screen as we're working through passages or wording and things like that, so.
It's great, and until our communications director informed me this evening that if we like link, we have an HDMI cord that anybody can plug into their computer, and then what they're working on is broadcast up there. That will not go out on the live feed.
Okay.
It will also not be recorded. Because the recording system in here is set up that it records what is on the computer that is attached to this screen. So currently, the computer is turned on. Gabby has set that nice little graphic up for us. Now we can get rid of that graphic and pull up like a Word document. We can access the internet. So we have a keyboard and a mouse, so somebody can still access it that way. But if you have a document on your laptop, that cannot.
You know, what we did in the past is we just put things on a thumb drive and moved over to the computer.
Yep, that would be possible to do.
Okay.
But it has to, yeah, it just can't be an
Right.
I mistakenly thought that that would be captured in the recording, and it's not.
It's just whatever computer is attached to that
Right.
screen.
Yeah, this particular one, yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. This is the button, you turn it on, it has to be on HDMI 1, but there'll always be staff here to make sure that's on for you.
All right, then, yeah, if we get to the point where we need it, we'll address it then, so.
So on the current live stream, we have that screen as the main thing. and
If anybody's interested, you can come,
Well, I have it open right now.
the live stream?
Yeah.
So you should see our pictures as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, so we're in the
Yeah.
corners here, and
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
have,
So that's what people see that are,
but you're saying if we put something on that
it will,
screen,
that Town of Erie Charter Commission will be replaced with what's on that screen.
okay,
So they will see what you're looking at.
okay.
As long as it's a thumb drive or something.
Or as long as it, yeah, yes,
As long
it
as
is.
it's
On that computer.
It's on that
So,
computer,
On the computer itself, okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
that's what we
There's
always
like
did
the-
anyway, because we went to like Google Maps or whatever. And it was very easy.
Okay. And the keyboard, you said, that's that one, that's
Yeah,
just
it's
on
right
the
there.
TV. Okay. So if we are not currently using that and we just wanna have the stream show the room, we would just turn off that TV and.
No, there's a button back here.
Okay.
Oh, Gabby's changing it. Gabby's listening to us, and so she's playing Oz in the background, and she has,
Except it didn't change the live.
Yeah, it still
It's-
looks
there's
like it's the
lag.
small little.
There might be a delay.
I don't know what she's done. Maybe she's, oh, she's doing something. Actually, the camera went to sleep. What,
That's a real lag.
I think I can change the view here,
Okay.
and I can change the view so it doesn't do
It's about
that.
12-second delay.
But what concerns me, I don't know if I
When she put
can
that picture up, I didn't.
change. Gabby, if you're listening, text me if I can change the view to, oh, the computer went to sleep. That's what she's doing right now.
Okay.
Because the computer does it, so we'd have to change that. All these new technical things, was we've never really tried this before.
In here.
What I'm concerned about is I don't know if I can
Sensors
change the
3
view
second
so
delay,
it's
do
just
that.
you guys and not the screen.
Okay.
And I don't wanna mess up the live
Live
feed
stream, yeah.
by doing that, and make us die. But, oh wait, she's texting me. I'm not too sure if you can change the view and keep it
Is
going,
this
so let's just
easier-
leave it for now.
Is this easier to manage in the boardroom?
Yeah, but there's two other staff that have to be there
So
to do
the
it.
staff are managing
Mhm.
all the.
Yeah, they do it
changes.
all.
Okay.
Which is what we were trying to avoid because they already do 2 meetings a week, so.
Yeah,
But-
this is my second one.
But
Anyway,
if-
candidly, putting a thumb drive in the machine and using the keyboard is not a big deal.
I don't have one on me, so
Yeah, no, I know, but
I'll be able to do it for today, but for future document, like if we could,
actually, the tablet, does the tablet have a thumb drive, have a USB?
it's a USB-C, yeah.
Oh, it does, oh, okay, cool.
Then we'll stick with that for now and just as we need to, we'll use whatever resources are available. We know how that works now, so we can plan around it or plan for it.
If you want to have one.
I don't have anything really to share right now, but.
Okay.
Okay. If that's good on the room AV setup, let's move on to our discussions.
There's only one change.
Alright, so per the draft that
Well,
Hillary sent out,
you can start it.
Good
um,
enough.
we're starting with our preamble. Do we want, there was a discussion last week that we would just put that till the end once we have
We could,
more
yeah,
concrete provisions in place.
or we could just do a boilerplate one. I mean, I read a bunch of them and.
I mean, some of them are a sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah, we the people of the town of Erie make this our governing document or something.
And, oh yeah, I mean, and even if you do one of the other ones, it wasn't that much detail.
okay.
Like there was a date when we did it and stuff,
Yeah.
so.
And
Up to you.
I think we can hold off on that for now, cause like you said, we don't have, it doesn't seem like anyone has real strong feelings one way or the other, so we can keep that until we can use it as our little stamp of approval at the end when we decide that this is good and this is what we're putting forward. So then we can move on to Article 1, General Provisions. The big change, or the two big decisions here are gonna be our name and form of government. So name and boundaries, I think we talked about it a little bit, and I would propose we stay Town of Erie because that's pretty much our identity, and having to redo all our emblems and everything.
Yeah, we'll have to change the signs.
Yeah.
And the people who've been very vocal about it, have said that they wanna remain the town of Erie, so, yep.
So a counterpoint, There's 2 municipalities in Colorado that are larger than us that still call themselves towns,
Yeah.
and we are growing. So do we wanna be a town of 40,000 people?
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Actually,
I mean,
It doesn't
Dakota,
mean anything.
just like Dakota's calls themselves the city of Dakota when they're smaller than we are, so I don't know the size really.
Yeah.
So just
No, but that was
FYI,
his point.
just FYI, when the town is incorporated, if it's less than 2,000 people, it's a town. If it's more than 2,000, it's a city, it's incorporated as a city. So that's why you got town. So you can change it when you go to home rule if you want, or you can leave it the same. It's totally up to
Yeah.
you.
And once you're home rule, it really has no functional meaning, right? It's just a name at that point.
Yeah, it's more perception
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
a lot of
it's,
people, well, go on, Adam.
well, that's exactly it. It's what do the people that live here want to live in, and what have we heard from them, and what do we want? So, I've heard the same thing. Town is desirable. Nobody is like really strong. Well, some people were, but nobody was like, you can't make it a city. But you know, the nomenclature behind cities is indicative of a growing populace, a thriving metropolis or something like that. And I don't think Erie ever wants to become something like that. Acknowledge that we are large, you know, we're large for a town, but it's a bedroom community now, and I don't see the center of that changing much.
And
So
so
that
And
has
for me,
my-
it's really hard to justify the cost.
Yeah,
it is a significant cost to change all the branding and everything, I would imagine, so,
Over time,
yeah.
you would be able to change it.
Yeah, you don't have to change all the signs
Right away.
right when you say, you could put that in a miscellaneous provision saying, within 10 years, everything needs to say City of Erie.
I mean, companies merge all the time that are much larger than this, and they end up getting it done.
Yeah.
It's just costly and wasteful.
Yeah.
It's wasteful, and to me, it's less about the cost, it's more about the
Vibe.
Perception.
culture.
perception.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were very adamant about remaining the town of Erie, and no one was really like, we need to
We need to
change.
change
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard the same stuff.
Okay, so I'm gonna propose we stay the town of Erie per the home rule charter,
Second,
okay?
if that needs to be second.
Yeah, that's a good question, how do we,
Probably not, like, I guess if it was contentious, we might wanna vote on it, but.
okay, then I guess, yeah, I'll
I agree.
just, if
You,
it's,
you don't, you can go along informally unless and until you have something that you really need to
okay,
draw a line about, yeah.
alright.
Because we're going to vote on the article anyway, once it's finished.
Yeah, but I also wanna make sure
The
we're
charter
not,
as a whole, I don't think you need to vote on the interim.
Oh, it's one vote at the end, okay.
I mean, that's definitely required. How many votes you do in the interim is up to you.
Thanks.
and I think, yeah, we also wanna make sure that we're listening to everyone's on the board's like ideas and thoughts around each of them, we don't wanna steamroll anyone, so. I'll
With that said, speak up. If
Yeah.
you have a different opinion, we won't be able to discuss it if you don't.
Exactly, so, so we'll stay the town of Erie. Okay, second big decision, section 1 is gonna be the form of government. So we are currently a council manager form of government. It seems like a lot of home rule cities stay council manager, there's a few that do, I don't know, I think Lafayette was strong council, right?
Yeah.
And then Thornton was like council mayor manager, but I think council manager works for us. It's what we've been doing, and I think
Well, I'm not sure it is what we've been doing, but
council manager, yeah, that's what
we have a mayor that's elected separately.
right, but
They don't have
The
Council
mayor is-
manager, I'm sorry,
the mayor is basically just another council member, just they're the symbolic head of the government. A council mayor manager form,
Yeah.
there's a difference in power and duties between the council and the mayor.
I thought it was strong mayor.
No, that's if you only have a mayor.
Yeah.
But if you have a council, mayor, manager, the mayor is separately elected and has separate powers.
Like a veto.
The veto.
Okay.
To veto.
So I think that's one reason we had Malcolm come to talk about his experience
Yeah.
in the different pieces. So I
If
think
you're ready for that.
Yeah, let's go, tell us.
Council manager is typically the name attributed to the form of government that Erie
Okay.
has. Strong mayor is typically larger cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. That form concentrates more power in the mayor's position. Typically, mayors in strong mayor cities have ability to veto the council's legislative direct or bills. Just like Congress, there's an opportunity for the president to override Congress's actions. It's kind of follows that function. In my experience, I worked for 3 years in Bellingham, Washington. It's a strong mayor city under 2 different mayors. I would say the key difference is it concentrates a lot more power in the mayor's position, and the mayor becomes the chief executive officer. Really initiates lots of legislative actions. It still requires coordination with the legislative body, but typically the mayor is much more active in initiating things as opposed to the council or the board initiating those actions. And unlike the council manager form where the council can terminate the manager's contract any day, the mayor is either there for 2 or 4 years, typically 4 years, or subject to recall, which is a much more difficult way of removing the chief executive. So in my opinion, the council manager form is more accountable to the council and to the electors, and the manager has to be responsive, has to work within the constraints, the policies adopted by the governing body, and if they're not, then the governing body has the ability to terminate them on any day. So in my mind, it's much more accountable to both the wishes of the governing body and ultimately to the electorate.
And you still vote on the manager, mayor, and on the council.
We don't vote on the manager.
You don't?
You don't know, the manager's appointed.
Yeah, not the electorate, but the manager is appointed by in this case, the board of trustees or by the city council, and can dismiss the manager when they believe the manager isn't performing according to their wishes. But the manager is not elected by the people. That electing the manager would be the chief executive. That would be the strong mayor system.
Well, yeah, well,
So we still can elect the mayor, so the mayor and the manager are 2 separate positions.
oh, got you, okay,
So that's what I think, yeah.
yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, like what I was seeing throughout the other charters that do council manager is they would still elect a mayor, usually at large, and they're like the symbolic head. They're the ones who do the like fancy signings and the ribbon cuttings and things like that, but they don't actually have any more power.
Well, they set the agenda.
Yeah.
That's kind of important.
Right.
They run the tone of the meeting, they run the speed of the meeting, so that's important too. But it's a leader, it's a figurehead, that definitely should be a separate elected position as opposed to
Right.
appointed by, from a pool of council members.
Right.
Which some municipalities do.
Yeah, I think I saw that
Lafayette
one
does
in
that.
Lafayette, yeah. They elect the council and then council selects a mayor from among them.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think they still do.
Malcolm thought they had changed.
It's not clear in the charter, but they do elect the mayor.
We didn't used to elect the mayor, but I thought
I
you said
thought
they,
they had a ballot measure to change it
they,
to
and I was thinking they were gonna do that, but I
ranked
don't,
choice voting system.
yeah, when they did the ranked choice voting.
I do like the name council as opposed to trustees. I think that indicates a level of growth that has happened for our town by going through this process.
Yeah, I think
I agree.
I like that idea too. I was just thinking about it because it's mentioned in the draft as town council or the council. And I think that's a good name for showing that we are not the same as we were before. It's a much smaller change than City of Erie, so but it still shows it's a demarcation, a sign of change. Okay, first of all, does anyone have anything else, any other thoughts on the form of government?
At what point do we talk about term?
Elections?
Elected, is that under elections or elected offices? That was in, yeah,
It's in the next, it's in Article 3 of the
Yeah.
of the draft we're working off of. It would be next week.
I definitely think that the council manager is best. I just think putting as much as we can back on our residents and allowing them to choose our representatives is ideal, in my opinion.
But there, so Lafayette, again, with the strong council, you just elect, I think they do 7.
Mhm.
So they just elect 7, they also do wards, but just for this, they elect 7, and then within that, those 7 select a mayor.
Right.
Again, it's still the same symbolic thing, they call it the strong council.
Well,
And you were talking about the mayor setting the agenda, so, but there could be an argument that the entire town selects those representatives and then they work with each other, but I don't know.
the downside of that is, you usually, you can end up with a wave of a split of factions inside that, so it's those 7 people. And you might have a 4-person support that appointed this one mayor, but then he or she upset other people, and then now things are going back in another direction, and they pull them out and they put in another person, and that can waffle. Unless we put it, unless it's put in that that's not.
Like you can't change once you've made your decision.
Yeah, and I think really it doesn't do the people good, because then there's bickering or potential political struggles going on inside the council that
Yeah.
should have just been taken care of by the electorate.
And to Candace's point, and I'm not trying to speak for you, so if I got it wrong, tell me. I think the people should select the mayor rather than the council select the mayor.
I agree.
Yeah,
Cause more decisions, like you said, more decisions on the people is better.
Right.
is best. And that's where I was getting hung up, for some reason I kept thinking, cause the other versions I read were like the council mayor and stuff, so I
Yeah.
thought that there was like no mayor involved in that, or they
No.
selected the mayor.
And that's where my confusion was at the beginning as to whether or not there was a 4th choice or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, we do currently, that's kind of how the mayor pro tem position is put into place,
Yes.
it's by the board. And we can talk about changing that or not, but at least for the mayor, I do think that it should be voted on by the people.
Do we talk about Mayor Pro Tem in this?
I think that's under elective offices.
Okay.
That's where I saw it in most of the charters.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I'm all in agreement.
Okay. So if we're all in agreement, we'll stick with council manager form. Okay, and do we anyone have any strong feelings one way or another on the name of the elected body?
So it should be council.
Council? Okay,
Adam's point, I agree with.
alright. So how do we put that wording in here, Hillary, cause
It's already down here, isn't it?
It's kind of in there, but you can also make an article where it says like council,
I guess we could
where
define,
you detail out the council.
yeah,
You just
and
name it the council at the top, and then you say, oh, the council members do this, the mayor does this.
And you'll do that late.
yeah, that's in Article 3 then.
It's not generally, or it's not in the general provisions.
Yeah, and it's not even in Article 2, cause that's just the election section, so I think it's under the election.
It's Article 3.
Okay. So we'll stick with the council manager.
I guess one, since we're about to move on, do we have to use Roman numerals for our articles?
You do not.
Say we don't use them, but some charters get up to 20-something articles. And then I have to remember how to read them in Roman numerals. And it's still like 21.2 on the provisions, so.
Yeah, this one is like Eagle is weird, cause it's like, it uses Roman numerals for the article, but then the sub provisions are, Arabic numerals, so.
So do you wanna make that change now, or do we wanna wait?
this way.
Yeah, we're just working through the meat of it. We can have a whole meeting dedicated to
To
format.
numbering.
Yeah.
And the other issue was like home rule is 20 in the Constitution, and people saw XX and weren't sure it was a placeholder.
Yeah,
That does,
you
that
had to
does throw
explain
people
that
off.
to people, I remember that.
Yeah.
So that is one definite change. Not really, but yeah, helps readability, which I think is nice. All right, so as far as authority, this section, from what I saw, seemed pretty standard across all charters. Basically, the important bit, I think, is 3, which is even if it's not specifically spelled out in this charter, we are reserving those powers for the town, like 1.03, number 3.
Which one are you looking at, by the way? Are you looking at Castle
Eagle.
Pines or Eagle?
The, well, it was
And
the
the
attachment.
Hudson.
I'm looking at the
Yeah.
proposed document for us.
Yeah,
They're
it
all
was
the
the
same.
attachment to the agenda.
Okay.
So what you're saying, if not provided for in this document, all authority shall be exercised in a manner set forth in this charter, or if not provided for in this charter, in such manner as provided for by ordinance, resolution, or state statute. So this says, if there's some authority that wasn't spelled out in here, it can be added by ordinance, resolution, or state statute.
Yes.
I have a question. One of the charters that I was reading, actually from the town of Silt, they actually had a provision in there for emergency ordinances, like specifically kind of spelled out. And I thought, so I don't know if that would be like its own part, like its own like 1 point whatever it would be, you know, within their or 12 or whatever, or if that would fall under the general.
So I
So,
saw that a lot. in
1.033.
Article 6.
Typically in
Powers.
Article 3,
Okay, okay.
when it's defining council's authority and powers, and typically a charter will address emergency ordinances as being separate from regular ordinances.
Okay.
But yeah, I think as far as like the authority portion, what the emergency, like bringing in emergency ordinances would then be recognized because they have the power to grant additional authority via ordinance by this section 103.3.
Well, and the only reason I asked, because in the town of Silt, it's in their general provisions,
Is
so
it?
that's why I asked.
How is it written out?
Section emergency ordinances. An ordinance that is immediately necessary for the preservation of public peace, health, or safety may be enacted as, quote, an emergency ordinance at any regular or special meeting of the Board of Trustees by the affirmative vote of every member of the Board of Trustees present, or by affirmative votes equal to a quorum plus 1, whichever is less.
Okay.
And I did, in a handful of other charters, I don't have one off the top. I saw some of that in the powers of the council. So I don't know if it's fits into our general provisions, but I do think we should have it somewhere.
Well, there's a whole section about ordinances in 6, and the language she just read in Hudson and in Eagle is in 6, with other ordinance stuff, codification, action, form, adoption procedures, things like that.
Okay. So I guess, do we wanna add it into our general provisions under the authority, or do we wanna handle them once we get into the specifics of ordinances and issuing, you know, how the council operates on a day-to-day basis?
I'm fine moving it.
Yeah, I think specifics would be better.
Okay, so we'll keep the section 1 as broad and general as possible. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to definitely keep that in mind once we get to the town power part. Yeah, you were reading right before we went into the detail on the emergency ordinances, Adam.
Oh, that's all, it was, it just says
Yeah,
what you were, I think, trying to say, that if an authority is not called out in here, or all authority shall be exercised in the manner set forth of this charter, but if it's not provided, then they can do it with ordinance, resolution, or state statute.
Yeah.
I don't think this says that it gives the town authority do things outside of this charter if they, if, that's kind of what home rule is though. Like if there's something that's not in the charter and the town needs to get it done and it applies to local matters, the town can enact an ordinance or a resolution or rely on state statute for legal backing to do such a thing.
I'd say that's 103.1.
Right,
103.1 or 3?
3.
103.1, I would say it has, the town has all authority of self-government and home rule. Everything that it can have under the Constitution it has, so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So then what exactly does 2 say then, 103.2? Like enumeration of any particular authority shall not be deemed to limit or exclude the exercise of any authority.
Yeah, so if, I would interpret that to mean if you had a section that said, you know, and this is gonna be a ridiculous example. So goats only goats in the town of Erie. It doesn't mean, or let me give you a better example.
Come on, that was fun.
Goats are allowed in the town of Erie, that doesn't mean you can't also by ordinance allow cows and pigs. So,
Okay.
because it's enumerated, it doesn't mean it's the only.
Okay, so this is the enumerated provision.
This is the provision that excludes us or helps us in case we didn't enumerate enough things.
Right. This is creating this as a document, not a limitation, but of expanse, the opposite of limitation.
So inclusion, not
Opportunity.
exclusion.
Opportunity, yeah.
Okay. So anything passed in the charter or via ordinance, I guess? Because that would be an extension of authority of the charter, right? So no ordinances are, as written, necessarily exclusionary.
Right, and the charter doesn't have to cover every possible authority or exercise of power that the town may do. It still has all those powers.
And that's what 3 is about.
Okay. Did anyone have any other examples from other charters besides, I think, since this is based in Eagle, any of the other charters who said anything about the authority section that they wanted to bring up or discuss? No? It did seem pretty standard, yeah. Okay, then adopting 103 as written. Okay. Any issues or concerns? Nope. Alright, let's move on to 104. Rights and liabilities. So this one also seemed very cut and paste, except for number 7, which Hillary has helpfully highlighted for us. But the gist of this section is just that we're carrying over all the authority and liabilities of the statutory town of Erie as we move forward. Right?
And this is just about disposal, not acquisition, just to be clear about that.
7, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, do we wanna go down the list?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's-
I thought he switched, he meant to
No,
say.
no, I just said, other than 7,
okay, sorry.
everything else was pretty standard, cause yeah, Hillary highlighted 7 because this is something
Yeah.
different that Eagle did.
Is it because in 6 above, it says the right to, maybe I'm looking at the example, this 6 was different than the one I was looking at. But anyway, it says the right, 7 starts out as the right to purchase, lease, receive, hold, sell and dispose of real or personal property, but then you're saying not open space or parks without
Yeah,
voter approval.
correct. So the Eagle Charter Commission reined in that particular power.
And again, it's just, well, we're going back to 7. I don't know if you want to do the other ones first.
Yeah, let's go down the list quick, because 7 will definitely be the most, will have the most discussion. So, 1, right to perpetual succession.
What do I need?
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
So every time there's a new council, it's the body is succeeding itself, so it's perpetual.
I saw that everywhere, so I figured it wasn't crazy.
Yeah,
It means that it's made up of more than the people in office at any given moment. It's
okay. And then 2 is just the town can own property.
Well, anything, property, real and personal, active or owned, possessed and held by the town.
Not just land, but pretty much
Right.
the town can own stuff.
And then it continues to own stuff? Is that?
And then,
Now, the question in my head about that one was trusts, which I missed before, but it just says we can have trusts, or think they're supposed to be in
You
trusts.
can manage and dispose of them.
Is that really,
Does
does
Erie
that
have
really
any
define
trusts
it?
at this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure what
I think, I think it's a quaint term, I don't.
Okay.
because we don't establish trusts to do any business in the town, for the town, right?
I can't remember ever having dealt with any trusts.
I mean,
Should we change the word?
Do we wanna take it out?
Is this the financial vehicle saying we can
I don't think so.
manage our own accounts?
I don't think so. I think you could remove that and it would not affect a darn thing. Except you wouldn't have the word trusts in your charter.
If we don't use them, I just don't know if it'll confuse people.
That's why let's just remove the verbiage if it's pointless.
You know, as soon as you take it out, it'll come out.
it's like when you're writing code and you remove the comment and everything breaks.
Been there, huh?
So, do we wanna leave trusts in or take it out?
Well, it's not just trust. It's the first sentence, or a part of the sentence is the right to own, possess, and hold all property, real and personal, heretofore owned, possessed, and held by the town. To me, this says everything that the town owns, buildings and property and
Yeah.
tables, it has the right to own those things.
Right.
And somehow the word trust got worked in here and it's throwing us all off.
Well, it could be that Eagle or some other town use trusts.
This
I mean,
is-
trusts are specific legal documents, right? So,
I don't think in this
Maybe-
case it is, I think they're
Okay.
saying all of those items. Just
The town has a
worded as
right to have
trusts.
those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
All trusts in any way connected.
that's all
If
it
it's
is.
not hurting anything, I would say to leave it in there. I'd hate to take it out and then, break the whole thing.
It's in a bunch of other ones, so I assume there's some purpose to it.
okay.
Anyone
It's
okay?
important just to
Anyone
capture-
feel strongly either
capturing all
the
of
other
those
way
items.
for
I
number
feel that
3?
strongly.
Yeah,
Or
I'd say
143?
Yeah, I think just a word that's used to capture all these real personal property. Saying
Okay.
with trusts.
Or that, sorry, that was
Would
one
be,
before
but-
2. Then 1043, right to purchase or otherwise acquire property on which there are delinquent taxes or special assessments. So that means we can just, is that like seizing land that's,
Tax
or like,
delinquent.
That's not eminent domain.
No, it's
No.
not,
No.
it's the
Probably
sheriff,
rather pay the
the
taxes.
sheriff shows up because you didn't pay your taxes.
It's the ability for the town to buy things out of foreclosure.
Right.
Mm.
And I don't see any reason not to have that.
yeah.
Seems if it wasn't there, we probably could do it
I
anyway.
think it's like something that they would
I agree.
exercise, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, eminent domain is something
It's not,
completely
it's different.
separate in a different section.
It's a different section.
So this is
Agreed,
just,
but
yeah, you can buy stuff that has delinquent taxes and,
Again, my guess is some town had an issue come up, and that's why they put it in.
Would this be like if a building is condemned and the town needs to take control of it?
No,
No.
it wouldn't alter the foreclosure process that's set forth in statute. It would just stating that the town is a qualified entity to buy something out of foreclosure.
right. So if like there's, some farm in foreclosure, the town could buy it and turn it into like a makerspace or something.
Again, I think we could do it without that, but
Yeah.
there was a reason someone put it in, just like we were talking about for the previous one.
It's just saying that we can handle that just as we handle any other town property. I'm okay with leaving it in.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay. Then 1044, right to succeed to all rights and liabilities of the town. So that's just passing in. That kind of builds off number 1, but more, just reiterates it, I guess.
No, I don't think it's related to one.
Perpetual succession, succeed to all rights and liabilities.
I see them as different, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I just think it's worth putting in.
Okay.
To succeed sounds like it's some term of art that just means you have rights and liabilities and they come to the town. when you own property, when you take actions, succeed is probably an archaic way
It's
of
a
phrasing
successor
it.
and a sign concept, like from contracts, so it relates to the perpetual existence, I would say,
Oh, okay.
of liabilities.
Okay, and then number 5 then, right to acquire all benefits and to assume and pay all bonds, obligations, and indebtedness. So whatever we have before, we have to continue paying and abiding by agreements.
Well, and to
And there's also
acquire
works
more.
For
Yeah.
future, just allows the town to pay its debts.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing.
The right to sue, defend, plead, and be impleaded. Okay. Yeah,
Sure.
town should be able
Exercise
to.
that one well.
Okay, so then number 7. So this one was the difference. A lot of other charters just went straight into number 8, or like a pared down version of 7. But this one, I think the reason Lori may have highlighted is because we mentioned last time that the TNAP proposal or ballot measure that was huge for town residents, like we don't want, some rogue council or something to sell off all our parks.
Yeah, putting on my OSTAB hat, I'm definitely in favor of having this.
Hold on, B I think is important because the town currently owns some pocket parks. And the town is attempting to give those back to HOAs because of maintenance problems and park equipment replacement problems. And this says disposal of less than 1/2 acre of land, even if designated as a park or open space, shall not require voter approval. That allows the town to give those things back or to deal with like developer built things without having to go to the voters for every one of those things. So I think B is important, although the parks I'm thinking of might be greater than 1/2
That's what I was
acres.
about to ask.
Cause they have like soccer fields and baseball fields, right? So they would.
Yeah,
There's some small
So the
parks.
perks, I think you're talking about, we actually did take that to the voters a while ago, and the voters passed it. None of the HOAs wanted to buy them back.
I know.
That's already allowed for those pocket parks, but any future ones would not have been, because they were very detailed out in that.
Well, and now the town does a lot better job in setting up the
Right.
agreements between the HOAs or metro districts and the developer, what the developer leaves for them. There's some legacy stuff that's still hanging around.
So the question is, what's the appropriate size to limit the town before it has to go to the voters?
So when do you think the town would need to move more than 1/2 acre of land? That should not be subject to voter approval.
If you're asking me, I would notch it up just a little bit to an acre.
Okay.
Yeah, that
And-
would give a little bit more flexibility.
Do we wanna put in wording to like say something about contiguous, because we don't want them to like take a 100-acre park and then just chip it away an acre at a time, right?
I mean,
I think the last clause helps with that too, though.
Which,
That it'll still be used for a public purpose. Of course, public purpose is maybe a nebulous
yeah,
term.
that's kind of generic, but like, my concern would be like, we don't have one of our big open spaces and then a town council starts parsing it out 1 acre at
Yeah.
a time.
Because
So,
it's way too much to manage.
Yeah.
Can I back us up just a little bit?
Sure.
There were some charters that had an open space article
Really?
where you could really hash it out.
I was gonna suggest that, I mean, it seems to me this is a little bit out of place here.
Yeah.
And if you really wanna, one, it would give you the advantage of delaying it because you'll, I think, become more comfortable in what you're doing if you save it for later. But yeah, it could be its own section or.
Do you remember which towns had an open space provision?
I didn't put it in my notes, but
Yeah.
it's,
Louisville
it
had
might be Lafayette.
Lafayette was so confusing.
Brighton might have one too, maybe Longmont from the
I
list.
think Westminster does, just going off memory, but I'm not sure.
I think that's a valuable thing for Erie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think because it fits with what people here clearly want, right? they want our open space, we wanna make sure it's protected. And so
So the
hashing it out.
And this might be an unpopular opinion, I know it makes it easier for the town to deal with problems and stuff when they can do that without voter approval, but when they were that passionate and that involved on that vote, I think any kind of disposal of land like that should be voter approval.
Yeah, so what I would like to do is, I'm in favor of having a separate thing for open space and would like to take it back to OSTAB as well for their review.
And I think she makes a good point, let's wait till we get our feet under us and learn more about the process in this.
So
Sorry.
All I was gonna say, so that, what do we do with 7 then? Did we say some kind of like,
I would-
refer to a different article?
No, I would suggest that 7 ends prior to the semicolon provided, however.
Yes.
And then as you read the charter as a whole, anything in a subsequent article that modifies 7 is still going to be given meaning. So in other words, 7 doesn't have to anticipate additional stuff that you're gonna add later that might be supplemental to 7.
So in essence, take out the highlighted part.
Then how does that differ from section 2? Because that's also the right to own, possess and hold all real and personal property.
Well, that says own and hold, this says lease, receive, hold, and
Oh.
enjoy.
So we can't enjoy the property until we have
Till
7.
7 is here.
I guess it is like the 2 is more like stuff that's already owned by the town when it turns home rule. And 7 allows us to expand that.
It's to yeah.
Okay. So okay, then I think the proposal we have is to leave 7, remove all of the highlighted portions, and defer that to a dedicated open space section.
And technically change the semicolon to a period.
I would hope our
Don't do that to
legal
me, sir.
advice.
No, I was looking, cause some documents like this have semicolons after each section, and that's, so I wanted to just double check that this
I
didn't.
think Boulder missed a capital on one of their article sections.
You can all proofread charter, all done.
Ben was
And that required a new vote.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing some in the Weld County general ballot, it was like fixing typos, there
Yes.
was a date, like, one of the first elections I was, there was like 8 different measures to like fix typos.
We did that a lot in Boulder.
Okay, so authority, number 7, we'll leave it and defer the highlighted part. Number 8, right to establish waterworks and wastewater treatment works.
Internet services?
Ooh,
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Municipal fiber.
So it says the town has the right to establish that, it doesn't require the town to establish that, but I think that's,
yeah, didn't we already get ourselves out from under the municipal fiber?
Yeah,
state
and I
ban.
think this is probably a relic of that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
This
like,
is-
because Eagle had not already done that,
it was
and
Senate
they
Bill,
wanna be able to.
Senate Bill 152, I think, something
I
like that.
can't remember the number, but there is a state law that requires voters to
Voter,
approve
yeah.
Pursuing internet.
Yeah.
And it was basically a provision put in by Comcast that requires,
Yeah.
no joke.
It's serious.
Especially
They lobbied
after-
for it, so.
Especially after Nextlight did so well in Longmont, right?
They did, but they also had an electrical utility
Yeah.
to ride the back of.
That's true. So I mean, I'd say we leave it as is because it,
You could simplify it in that you could basically change it to the right to establish municipal. You've got waterworks, wastewater treatment, water and sewer systems. Water and sewer systems is the same thing as waterworks and wastewater treatment, isn't it?
no, waterworks is going out, wastewater is coming back in.
Well, I mean,
Stormwater is
That's
different than
treatment.
wastewater.
okay,
treatment and systems are different.
okay.
But I think your point is you're spelling out 3 different things with one utility, and then you're just saying, and internet and other.
Yeah,
And
legit.
you could take out internet services and replace it with something like and other public services as permitted by law.
Yeah,
Just
Because,
keep it more,
I mean-
just keep it more general instead of,
yeah, I agree with that, right?
I would have some reservations about,
in the future, right, as far as.
I'm sorry?
I would have some reservations about that based on how statute defines utilities. So the term utility in statute doesn't include internet, phone, cable, that kind of thing, so I think it is important to
Oh.
differentiate. The statutory utility is kind of the
Water and
older,
power.
the old-fashioned version, yeah.
Power's not in here other than that.
But I don't know why you'd need to state utilities and, I mean, but do we really care? I mean, it's up to you guys, but is saving a word or two here gonna make a difference? I mean, do you feel strongly that you don't wanna call out waterworks, wastewater, and sewer? Or is it okay to just leave it all in, just in case? That would be my recommendation.
I'd
Well,
say
then my
provide as
question would
much
be-
flexibility as you can,
Yeah.
because to anticipating the future, you don't know what's gonna happen, so create as much flexibility here as you can.
What are the elements defined under the statutory definition of utilities?
It's pretty much everything but telephone, cable, internet, that kind of
So
thing.
all telecommunications
So gas and
infrastructure.
electric.
Gas and electric, water, wastewater. Anything that came about like 1990 or later is probably not gonna be a utility. And that's really, like Malcolm said, that's a result of lobbying, because the telecom companies didn't wanna have the same.
Right.
I mean, would it, then, since we're already out from SB 152, would it make sense then to generalize internet services to telecommunication services? Cause that would cover, you know, if no one wants to put cell towers in town, maybe we can get together and get our own like cell relays going or something like that. And that would cover, but that's not technically internet services, right?
Yeah, and then we go back to that provision you asked about the enumeration. So we could argue that simply because telecom isn't enumerated doesn't mean it's not also a power that the town has. This doesn't need to be at all inclusive of every potential service the town could offer.
Right.
So, but can we take that to the other extreme and generify it beyond water and internet and just say utility systems?
All utility systems not defined under state law.
Except that utility under state law doesn't.
It doesn't include that,
includes
that's why I
water.
like your suggestions about expanding it
Yeah,
to
to
telecommunications. Because again, as Malcolm stated, we don't know what's coming, right? And if we adopt that now, then we don't have to worry about that in the future.
But I also worry about whether internet can be provided other than telecommunications.
Well, internet service is not cell service, so those are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telecommunications is cell
So
service.
telecommunications.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that they're different.
Well, telecommunications covers in
I think there could be,
Venn
I think it's a
diagram
Venn
that's inside,
diagram.
right?
And I think there may be some things for internet services outside of the telecommunications realm, perhaps.
Like what?
If you provide it,
Free Wi-Fi in
or
downtown or
like,
something?
yeah.
That's still telecom though.
Well, having
Like
worked in
even
telecom for
satellite.
30 years, I worry about nuances.
I mean, I'm honestly asking, I don't know what
Yeah.
else would be considered, because even like, if you're using like laser-based communication system, that's still telecom.
Well,
Telecommunication is a transmission of information by various types of technologies over wire, radio, optical, or other electromagnetic systems,
See?
according to Wikipedia.
You
Right.
beat me
That's
to
what I was
it.
Everyone's on
and
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia was written by people who sometimes don't know what they're
Cited
This is
Article
Law
3 of-
Insider.
Anyway,
This
maybe
is
it's not
Law
worth a lot of
Insider.
discussion, but
How can it be simplified?
yeah,
I think
I think just leaving it like it is all right.
That like, the internet services we've already covered, right, cause we're out of Senate Bill 152.
If that gets repealed,
Exactly, that was, so that's why I wanted to kind of make sure the town remains, you know, keeps that as a power, not just as internet services, but future-proof a little bit.
Well, hold
I
on,
don't think you need to future-proof because,
We can pass by ordinance.
correct.
Okay.
Home rule
If
isn't,
we get off course like that, just
yeah, home rule isn't some sort of future
Reel us back in.
reel us back in.
That's- Okay, then, I guess, yeah, cause other utility systems gives us that power to expand that down the line to anything that's not defined as restricted in the state statutes.
Yes, we can define a statute if we need to, or an ordinance, so.
or 1.03 gives you the authority to do that. Or a lot of this is going to be sort of belt and suspenders where, I think, who mentioned Tammy Tenoy's presentation? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of merit to that. Well, we could just end with 1.03 and be done. But the rest of it is kind of giving shape to things that you may or may not care about. So
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
like showing what our priorities are, right? Okay, so does anyone feel strongly one way or the other for number 8?
I kind of want to remove internet services. Not because I don't want not because I think that would keep the town from being able to provide internet services. I just think calling it out specifically will raise, what questions. What are we trying to do here? Why would we be placing this into our charter? How is that on par with wastewater, water, and other utility systems? I'm trying to avoid questions or diving into this for something that's really not tangible.
Because we're not running them, we're licensing them.
Nothing. Just trying to make a very easy to accept sentence about the town has the right to establish some utility things.
This one's pretty simple.
Which
To establish public works and provide public utilities and other public services as permitted by law.
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where'd you get charters then?
The monument, which was approved this November,
Monument?
yeah,
Monument was-
68 to 32% approval.
So do we want to replace
I do.
8 with that one?
I like that.
Very, like it's very generic, right?
That's fine.
What,
Yep, okay, so I thought it was.
How will we write that? What,
Is it?
Just one paragraph that covers all rights and liabilities, and it has that similar phrase in it.
Well, and I think we have to remember too what's important to Eagle because they're in the mountains, right? So internet services is probably a bigger deal to them than.
And so they make sure to keep it generic that,
I mean,
It
that's
allows
probably what their people were really worried about.
And we don't know if they run it or not.
so can that be included for number 8? Okay. Anyone have any further thoughts on that one? Are we good with Brian's proposal? Good? Excellent. All right, number 9, seal. Okay.
Why is that even a thing?
Because some town back in the day probably had an issue where someone said you don't have the right to make your own seal. And it
We have
became a legal
precedent, we
battle.
have seals already, I don't know. At this point, I'm starting to lean towards the Tammy to know way.
It's almost like the town branding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's the common
It's
seal,
basically
it's
it.
the same tree
Yeah.
used on everything.
we have the power to set our own branding essentially and use our seal. And I think later
Maybe that's a
on
better
it's-
way to say it then, the right to have our own branding and seal and logo and.
I think the seal has
like
some
what-
legal.
seals used to be really important.
Yeah, a seal had legal weight.
Yeah.
You still
Debbie, do you
use
have a
it.
seal
brand.
stamp?
I still use them.
Like a notary, or when you have to certify documents as official, you put the seal on.
Yeah, I got my certified copy of the election results from Weld County, and you can feel the raised seal on it, so
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
Let's protect that.
Yeah,
Do you have to
It just
say
means
that
we
in the
have-
charter to have it, to have
Let's,
that power?
let's
Yeah.
do that.
let us.
There's no one mentioned the laws.
Right to adopt ordinance, so number 10, right to adopt ordinances, resolutions on all matters and otherwise, unless otherwise prohibited by the charter or laws applicable to home rule municipal corporations in the state
Yeah,
of
that's
Colorado.
just a given, but sure.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of this is, if I'm backing up, a lot of this is a given.
Yeah,
The right to have real estate, things like that, sure.
okay. But it's good to enumerate it, right? Any issues, anyone with number 10? Number 11, right to have all rights, powers, and liabilities applicable to Colorado home rule municipal corporations as set forth in article placeholder of the Colorado Constitution, Title 31, Colorado Revised Statutes, and other applicable. So what is the difference between 10 and 11?
Well, one is about ordinances, passing ordinances and resolutions, and the other is about having the power and liabilities and rights given.
I would have thought,
You could probably combine them.
yeah, I would have thought having the power to pass ordinances is
Is
covered
in
by-
11.
Yeah, but Hillary's advice and just leave it in.
Are we planning to prohibit anything? I haven't seen anything yet, but
Like what?
that's what I'm saying, I haven't seen anything that we're, in 10, they talk about prohibiting things by the charter, and I don't know that we're planning on prohibiting anything, are we?
I mean, I really don't know that I wanna have goats.
But someone else can have a goat. You don't have to have a goat.
You're in Old Town after all. Anything goes. My brother parks in his lawn.
Because our neighbors have chickens and a rooster. I will stick to the chickens and roosters, but I'm not sure about goats.
Alright,
Anyway,
I think that puts a cap on Article 1 then.
I have a question. I saw some charters had severability in Article 1 and some put them in miscellaneous provisions. Does it really matter? Okay.
What is severability?
Severability is the concept that if one part of the charter is found to be unenforceable or invalid, it doesn't invalidate the entire document.
Okay.
Definitely put it somewhere.
yes.
Okay, yes, let's remember to put that in. Okay, anyone have any go-backs for Article 1? Big decisions we made, Town of Erie staying. We're council manager, we're gonna call our government the town council. And then for number 7, that open space section, we're gonna just defer it to a dedicated open space section down the line. And then minor changes with the utility, public works, right? It was public works, yeah, public works word. Alright. Okay, that's it for Article 1 then.
That's good progress.
Does anyone need a break before we move on to Article 2?
I was
Don't
gonna
want-
use the restroom,
Yeah.
but it looks like, I mean, we already agreed on. I feel we already agreed, but definitely bring it up, on moving the elections to Tuesday,
Tuesday?
The highlight basically in section 202.
or not on Tuesday,
November?
yes, regular election.
I know, I saw one of the, I think Thornton said the first Tuesday of November.
A lot of
That's a
them
mistake.
actually-
Yes, and it does not say the
It's
first Tuesday
after the first Monday.
So I'm assuming there's probably some times where they have their election
Thornton.
on the
Boulder,
wrong,
Online.
on the
Yeah.
wrong day. It doesn't line up
Littleton.
with.
They also first Tuesday?
Brighton,
There were a couple of counties that actually
Wheat
printed
Ridge,
their
a lot of
their
them do
books wrong
first Tuesday.
Really?
Yeah,
this year.
One of them, so Castle Pines does Douglas County coordinated.
Oh, that's
So I
expensive.
specify
Yeah.
it's a coordinated election, but a lot of them just say first Tuesday of the ones that I looked at.
Yeah. So that means that it's not, it doesn't line up if it's not after the first Monday.
But it's an odd year. Do they say odd year?
Every of them say odd year.
So then it wouldn't clash
Some of them
With-
say, I didn't.
with a
put-
federal election. It may clash with a county election.
I didn't put in the full details of every one that I wrote, but a lot of them do say in coordination with state election.
Yeah.
So I guess it could go either way, but yeah, most of them are Tuesdays, first Tuesday of odd number years, which I didn't look into the state election, but I guess it's that.
It's the first Tuesday after the first Monday.
Is the state,
But that's the federal one.
That's federal,
But is that the state one?
Yes.
Because a lot of these home rule charters.
State typically follows
federal?
Yeah.
federal.
I looked that one up, which is why when I saw the Thornton was just first Tuesday that.
But
Confused me.
Longmont, Littleton, and Brighton all say the exact same thing,
Yeah.
first Tuesday. So many of the charters do that, and it didn't seem like they were amended, at least on their code site.
Do we wanna put any wording then to like, say we wanna follow coordinated elections of county or state?
I
Just so
don't think
that-
you wanna mandate that, but the option to do that is already
Okay,
preserved.
okay. I guess, yeah, the first big, Sarah brought up, the first big decision here is gonna be like, do we wanna do the November
It
election?
should be like Windsor and stay in April
No.
and make Debbie hate all of us.
And make your town pay a lot more money.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes it very busy for me.
Also makes I will say it confuses your residents as well.
Yeah,
And I think like
definitely
coordinated
better.
elections definitely have better turnout.
Absolutely.
And there's an FAQ in the Secretary of State about coordinated elections.
Is anybody against coordinated elections? Then
Sarah said definitely moving it to November, as she walked out the door.
So, all of these say odd year.
Right.
Is there a reason we do odd and not even?
There is, the state general election is even year, so it just tends to be a really long ballot.
Okay,
Everywhere I've ever lived has done it on local elections in odd years.
just to help maintain ballot size, because I mean, you get better turnout in the big
Yeah.
statewide stuff.
I agree.
But I will say is having run elections, you also, as a municipality, you're way down ballot. You're after
So
all the
people will get
national,
tired.
all the state,
Yeah.
all the county, then the municipalities hit. So on a long election,
We're never first.
you're never first, and it's Town of Erie, you're gonna even be lower, so.
And you tend to not get as much voter attention. If you think of presidential election years or even, so local elections tend to be odd. It's the same time that school district elections are. It kind of helps stagger the issues. I mean, are you really gonna compete with a presidential year if you have a Town of Erie election? That's the question.
No, I mean, more people care.
Right.
And so they
They
might be more likely to actually vote if there's more at stake, but there's the argument down at the bottom and
Yeah,
voter fatigue.
if we're fourth page down on the ballot, people are gonna get tired and just start filling out random bubbles.
I think there's a study about this.
What's that?
There's a study in California about odd versus even year elections, but we don't need to get into that right now.
Well, and if anything too, I mean, if somebody's watching this and feels passionate about it one way or another, we can listen.
Any
Yeah.
comments on the live stream?
Yeah, this is all, I guess, one of the things I wanted to
What
bring up
YouTube's
was like,
saying.
we're just going through and doing a first draft, right? We're gonna have time to do revisions pursuant to public comments and things down the line, so. Nothing we put down here is set in stone forever, so.
Cause I definitely wanna see what the people talk, cause like personally me, I'll go all the way through a ballot, I'll pay attention to
Yeah.
everything, I'll research everything.
But I think, yeah,
So
one,
that's me.
one of Hillary's points was that like,
So
just,
who's
you
coming?
might get more attention on specific local issues if you're in an odd number year. Cause if you're competing with, you know, presidential, federal and state level
People are gonna be worried,
issues.
if people are gonna be
Yeah.
arguing about that instead of.
You
Right.
can hope for a little
Budget.
less partisanship.
Yeah, separating it from the partisan elections, you might get less partisanship as well.
Maybe.
That's why I like that
Okay.
in mind.
Said what they're saying.
What do they, what's that
Okay.
study say?
So,
Can I,
This is saying that
yes,
it is a lot lower.
and this is just a point of, if they're not voting on the charter until November?
Yeah.
How can this,
Yes.
You'd have another provision somewhere about.
There is a short, it's under transitions
okay,
typically.
sorry, thank you. I'm not.
Yeah.
You were doing the math on.
I'm thinking I'm in staff, on the staff side.
no, but it's a good question and
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can
wanted-
also-
I mean,
you can
we
also
could put
do
it 2025.
continuation of terms.
Yeah.
So all that's covered at the same
Right.
place typically.
Cause that was one of the sections that I know I had been thinking about as far as like continuation of government, if we don't wanna do a special election in April, if the charter passes next year, then one of the things we can do is we can just extend all the terms till that next
Yes,
November.
that's what we,
And then just have a new election where we just completely dissolve government
And
and
then,
elect all new people.
well, we need to talk about terms,
Sorry,
but
the
then you
council,
have,
not the government, sorry, the council.
we need to talk about the terms, we need,
Yeah.
like, cause there may be full 4-year terms at that point, and there might be just, if we wanna have offset, 3 and 4 or something like that. that there may be some shorter than 4-year terms that need to be filled, and so then you go
Yeah.
down ballot and you fill them backwards or something like that.
I've seen that in the other charters,
Yeah, they go
where
by
they say
like
if
both
the charter,
rules.
if the term expires at this point, then it's extended to this, if it expires this other time, it's extended to that.
Some for transition were like the top 3 get 4-year terms and the
Right.
next 3 get 2-year terms.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Okay, so election laws, we'll start on Article 201.
Can-
Election laws governed
Can
by
I-
town.
1 second.
Sorry.
Start at the very beginning.
Yes.
Can this be Article 4 instead of Article 2?
Why?
Cause it's, it follows, it seems that we should talk about elective offices first before getting to elections. I'm not saying talk about elective offices now,
Right.
and that's how most charters do it.
I did see some charters who put elections like at 4 as well,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Yeah, it's
Which
kind
is-
of like,
I
And
don't
it,
think
and
that-
it's in our meeting too.
That was just a proposed
Mhm.
schedule draft, and it was based on the Castle Pines charter. You guys have chosen to use the Eagle charter, so you really should not.
You can do whatever you want.
But I think your point is well taken,
It is.
which I agree with. I think
So-
we should talk about what's gonna be elected on before you talk about the election.
Is that what you're saying?
Logically.
Like, if we start talking about elections, we have some other things to figure out first, and so why not do that instead of trying to back ourselves into these things? Like, are we gonna retain all of the current elected people, and what are the elected offices gonna be, and things like that. So if we do that first, then it'll be easier to discuss elections, unless we're just trying to say elections are gonna be held in November, and we can put that aside and come back to
I
it.
think
That's
that's
pretty
Brian's
much-
point.
yeah, that's pretty much how they always are, like, it's just the elections talk about the actual process, like, how do we do elections?
some of them talk about district stuff too.
Yes.
So, I mean, does it matter the order, except, I guess logically reading it?
I mean, we can
That's the
always
point.
go over it now, step by
Exactly, I'm saying go over it now.
Right, and then, yeah,
And then just
Because
change,
we're not prepared
just
to
change that
and then
detail.
just, it's a good to note that we should probably change that around just cause it flows better and makes more sense.
I don't object to it.
Yeah, I think we can reshuffle as we go, to what makes sense, depending on how we go. Like how we define things and how they feed into each other. I've seen it both ways, but you're right, it does seem like elected offices goes first.
Yeah, explain what you're voting on and then how you vote for them. I like
Yeah.
that logic.
There's always gonna be overlap though,
Yeah, I mean, as I was trying to put together the different charters and compare things, they're definitely a lot in different orders. We'll figure out what order makes sense for us.
okay.
Let's-
So yeah, we have a proposal that we'll table for now to rearrange the order, or to revisit the order.
And that could be something that's done near the end after we have them all and.
Yes.
We can just call all of them Article X for now.
Maybe right before we do the preamble.
Yeah. Okay, point taken, Brian, thank you. Okay, so then let's get into the election laws. Governed by the Colorado municipal election laws as amended, except otherwise provided in this charter. That seems standard, so,
Or by ordinance, so,
yes.
Yep.
Okay. Types of elections, Tuesday following first Monday in November. I guess the only real question we'd had here was, do we wanna change the wording so we join coordinated elections, or is this good enough as far as like administering an election
so if
to
you're in,
coincide?
if you're in November, if you're the Tuesday following the Monday, the first Monday in November, you're gonna have the option to coordinate, so I think you're leaving that up to future councils, whether they do coordinate.
Coordinated in this sense means on the same ballot, because you do have an option to ship another ballot, right, even on the same day.
It means that the county runs the election, that the county clerk runs the election,
Rather than the state.
and that it appears,
Municipal.
no, rather than the town clerk. And that it's mailed on one ballot.
Okay, yeah, as a coordinated election is one that the county clerk and recorder conducts on behalf of 2 or more political subdivisions. they're hosting an election on the same day in November.
So if we specify we want this to be coordinated, we kind of tie the hands of a future council that might want to have a separate election or separate ballot on the exact same day that we've already specified.
It also restricts them from then, if there's no other entity doing an election, then you can't coordinate without yourself, so there's some,
Let's not use the word coordinated.
yeah. There might be some concern that we're not doing coordinated elections, so we can't have
But
an
the
election
spirit
this year.
of the provision here is because we think coordinated elections are a better way to do it than what we currently do.
I think it's whether it's odd or even.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
'cause
the
I've
big
had
decision
people-
here.
I guess
Want, like starting in 2024 and run on even years, just because
And
turnout.
I believe Boulder just changed theirs to even years, just this November, which is odd, but I believe I saw that on the ballot.
So Debbie and Amy, do you have a preference if we say anything about coordinated elections, or would you rather leave it
As long
out?
as there's an option to do it, I think that's the
Okay.
best way to go. I mean, there's still stuff that has to be done by the clerk, so, petitions and stuff, I still have to verify signatures and all that sort of stuff. They basically, I provide them with the ballot language and then they print the ballots and they mail the ballots out and at that point I'm sort of done, but, they're still counting all of those signatures, so.
Should we say something like where feasible, coordinated elections should be considered?
I think
Or
we've
just
given
leave it out?
ourselves the power in 201 to change via ordinance, so if the town council decides to hold, this year we'll do a coordinated election, that can be done by ordinance, right?
Correct, and a future council could also pass an ordinance that says every election shall be coordinated.
Yeah, okay, so leave it up to them.
Yeah. So under,
I concur with leaving as much up to where possible, where feasible.
ordinance.
So, but then the big question here is this odd numbered thing.
yeah, that was the big one.
I would keep it out.
You,
You
okay,
like odd
but
number?
if, let's walk this forward, so if this passes in November 2023 and there are trustees who are going to keep their seats already until 2024, but we're not gonna have an election in 2024, or if we did, it would only be for, 3 years instead of 4, because we have to offset them to another odd year.
So
Does that make sense?
I would encourage you not to make the decision based on the transition, but on when is it best to have the local election.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do because the transitions, we can handle that in the transition section, because that'll be a one-time thing.
Okay,
Yes.
And yeah, it might be problematic, but that'll be just once.
okay.
We're
So
gonna need
then,
that no matter what.
then the other consideration is, will we get the attention and presence from voters that we want in an odd year versus an even year? I think we're gonna get better than April no matter what.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Bob brought us one study, which again,
Yeah.
have to check the validity of it, but there was better municipal voting turnout in odd years. And this was comparing San Diego and LA, so huge, just enormous places, but
So big
there was
sample
a lot more votes that were turned in San Diego in odd years than in LA in even years for municipal level voting.
So it seems like,
So I think the voter fatigue is a real thing. I mean, we obviously would vote for everything on the ballot, no matter how long it is, but that's not everyone.
It was actually in some cases more than 50% difference. So less than 50% of the voting in the odd year.
well,
But
I think that presidential election years are filled with extra partisanship too.
Yeah.
And so odd years at least give us the ability to stay away from that. Not that
it's,
we're
yeah,
all, but
there'll be less of it. I mean, there's still the state elections in odd years and county.
Well, state general elections are even,
Okay.
but you'll always have Tabor issues on odd years.
Yeah. The Tabor issues are, well, I won't say anything about that.
They're nonpartisan.
And I know, I started thinking about that and said, I better stop.
any thoughts?
I'm indifferent.
Indifferent.
I'm just hoping, still moving it to November, whether or not it's odd or even years, it's beneficial for the people who work for the city, right?
Well, I think it's beneficial for you as well.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I
For
mean,
the town as a whole, because you're gonna
absolutely, it's
get,
beneficial
you're gonna
for the
get a
town,
greater voter turnout, whether it's odd or,
yeah,
And save the town money.
and save the
and
town,
save the town money is,
It's
that's
twice as
kinda where
expensive
it's
to do.
leading.
or 3 times.
Yeah, and
Wow.
To do what?
To
do
run
an
an
April.
election.
To do it ourselves,
think-
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
I
really
think we're all decided or agreed on November.
Yeah.
And the question is whether odd or even years.
Do we wanna vote?
I think it
Candace?
depends on.
I still feel like we need to look at what the transition would look like.
Well, and we will in the,
I think we have to look at what the transition would look like before we can make a decision on even or odd years.
legit.
Why do you think that?
I just feel like we need to have a better idea. I don't know that we would get, I get the exhaustion at the end of a ballot on even years. We know for sure November is good. I would just be curious to see how we would be able to make that work. So what, in 23, we vote for yes or no on the charter and a whole new government at that
I
point?
think we're all
Like-
agreeing that in the transition, we'll address that 2023 verbiage will be taken out.
I wanna actually propose we just take it out now, so that there is no year. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, the year doesn't need to be there,
No,
yeah.
so it would just be November.
Cause I think we
and
all
on.
agree we're not gonna throw this at everybody in the year 2023.
And the reason for my question candidly was I think we need the transition regardless whether it's even or odd.
Something, we're gonna have to do
Oh, yeah.
something.
And so that's
Right.
why I was wondering if you had
But
something
I
else in
don't-
mind.
But it's weird though, because we only have 2 trustees. Right, Emily and Andrew are the only ones whose terms would be up at the same time. Because Dan is filling Christiane's term.
But Sarah Laughlin, I believe her term is at the same time as well.
No,
No, hers is with Brandon.
she's with Brandon and.
Oh, okay.
I think, I get what you're coming from, but this is going to be relevant in 50 years and no one will care about the
I get you there.
transition then.
Right.
So
I get you
I
there.
don't think we need to, we need to focus on the transition later,
Right.
but not for this line.
Yeah,
Can
I
we
think,
just take 2023 out, cause I think we all
Yes.
agree we're not gonna throw this at people in 2023, the transition will be after
Yeah.
that.
And
I
in
think
fact,
it's-
it doesn't make sense to have it in there.
Yeah.
That says we're not gonna have another election after.
It does, it implies there's only one ever.
Don't die.
Okay,
So then it moves to
Well, no,
odd
it
or
says
even.
it says each
Says
odd
each
year
odd
after.
So the question's odd or
That's
even.
right, it
Question's
does
odd
say
or
that,
even.
sorry. Okay, so to kind of roll up then, the big question is odd or even years. Leaving aside the succession and transition issues. We've heard from town staff that odd number years tend to increase turnout, and from per the study as well,
Yeah.
because voter fatigue doesn't come into play. Even number years, you'll potentially have more engaged people because everyone's paying attention to national elections as well, but that might also lead to voter fatigue, so. It's kind of a trade-off and we're making a value judgment there, or
would there be any value of saying can be modified by ordinance in that line, or is that applicable no matter what?
I think it's important for the charter to establish the regular election date.
yeah, we don't wanna have it change every single election, I think.
Then we will get no turnout ever. People will be
Do
like,
we have an
forget it.
election this year? I don't know. And like, if you leave modification up to council, then there's potential that, people can delay elections too.
I kinda like the idea of the odd number election, we're looking at it as someone who is a voter and they can reliably know that, okay, the big elections happen on the even number years, we get the presidential election, the senate elections, and these. And then you can be like, okay, now I know that odd number years are gonna be more focused on my local, state, county, municipal.
Right.
I think like per a provision that shows up later in almost every charter where local municipal elections are nonpartisan, I would like to keep them in odd years, cause that helps keep that separation that, leave the partisanship for the even number years. Odd number years is our local issues.
Well, and you gotta think too about the people who are willing to volunteer for like election issues and stuff like that. I mean,
That's true.
there's only a certain brand of person who's willing to do that, and you're kind of stretching them a little thin if you're making them focus on their local issues as well as
Yeah.
other issues, you know, presidential elections and such.
My perspective is what we're doing today we're doing odd years, right, for
Yes,
council.
but it's April odd years.
It's, I understand it's April.
It's even numbered years.
It's even now.
No, it's even
Yeah.
Oh,
in
it's
April.
even in April, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, because I was gonna,
It was earlier this year.
say, unless there's a reason to change it, I'm not sure we should, but then the fact that it's April, it's a separate election anyway, so maybe that's a moot point.
Well, it's April and it's even. I won't, I agree with Lisa. I think I'm on the odd,
I was
train.
leaning towards
That's
odd.
where I'm at. I do think it makes the transition a little harder.
Yeah.
So we should probably think that out, or we're gonna think that out.
We're gonna
I don't
think
know. That might change this decision later when we're trying to do all the details of that. But for now, not even just for now, I'm arguing for the odd and I'd like
Yeah.
to.
I think every,
I'd like the odd as well, and we have time for public comment with transition, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should take the transition out of it, because we're gonna have to do the transition no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think we should put that on the side. And to Ben's point, the fact that we're talking about something we're down the road is really what we should be thinking about rather than the one transition.
I like the fact that we are discussing it though.
yeah,
Should
I mean,
definitely
now.
just-
there's gonna be a whole
Just-
section per what I've seen in other charters. Okay, so if there's no other,
Well, have we
Dis-
decided?
huh?
Have we decided if we prefer even or odd?
It seems like most people who've spoken
Well,
with
shall
about
speak
it have
up
said
good.
odd.
I'll propose a motion that we vote on odd or even years.
Okay. Seconded. Let's vote
This-
then.
Propose, second the thing that we should vote, or?
Yes, that we're
Okay.
gonna vote. So let's
I
put.
don't know that I feel strongly enough about it. Am I the only one that's thinking odd?
No, I think
No,
most of
no,
us
no,
are thinking
both
odd.
Or I mean, am I the only one that was thinking
Well, I
even?
was thinking even too,
Let's,
but
why?
I almost, I feel like I wanna revisit this, I want the
That's
option to
kind
revisit
of where I'm
this,
at too.
because
I'm okay with
I've
saying
had
odd for
feedback.
now,
Yeah,
but
we're not
People
voting on
wanting
this. We're not stamping this, so.
Yeah,
I'd
okay,
like,
whatever, agreed.
I'd like to be fluid, yeah,
Okay,
that's kind of where I'm at too. I don't feel like I'm ready to make a decision.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
But we
Let's
can,
leave it, let's
we
leave
can
it as
leave it
odd, and we're
as
gonna
odd and-
note that this is one of the major things we have to come
We
back
may
to.
come back to, okay.
And that does make sense now, Debbie, why April's bad, cause it isn't even years that
I'll
means you're
retract
within
my
2
motion
elections
to
and-
call a vote.
Okay, I mean,
well, and people are like, why am I getting a ballot in April?
Right, and then they call the county and they go, what is this ballot for? And then during November
Do they
elections,
really?
they do, and then during November elections, they call here and go, I didn't get my ballot yet. Well, no, you're not gonna get it from me, you're gonna get it from the county in November. So,
It
when
also
they
causes
come
a
to
lot of
drop it
problems
off,
with the drop off.
right, they don't know where to
So
drop it
much-
off.
I
So many
remember
issues
that.
with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna leave the wording as is with a heavy emphasis that we're gonna revisit it.
And
well,
taking
except
out the
taking
year.
out 2023.
Yeah.
Move to 2020.
One
Yeah, but-
question, I think we did confirm it, but second, or first Tuesday after the first Monday is what we wanna keep it at.
Yes.
Even though a lot of charters do say first Tuesday.
That, so that's consistent with state law and how it defines general elections, and odd year elections. I think it's important to keep that in.
And like, we don't have to specify coordinated because that'll be left up to town to do.
No, but this allows you to line up with those elections that are gonna be happening anyway. Those charters that are off, I don't know what they do. I mean,
They probably just wanna get, I guess we could see what they did this most recent election.
They probably had an ordinance
Well,
that faced it.
Like they said,
Maybe.
Longmont, they go with the federal, so they
So,
follow the
nice.
federal.
ignore their charter.
See what-
Okay, so we're good on 202, section 1. The wording is gonna be regular municipal election shall be held on Tuesday following first Monday in November and in each odd number year thereafter, odd with a heavy asterisk right for now. Okay, section or number 202, number 2, mayor and each council member shall take office at the first regular meeting of the council following the date on which the election has been certified and shall continue until the successors have been elected and take office. So this specifies that we have a mayor as a separately elected position. We haven't defined an elected office yet, but
Right, so if you don't make that change or if you don't make that so in a subsequent article, we would wanna.
yeah, we come back and change that so that it would be just each council member. So let's see, that one we don't really have to address for now. But then the date of the they take power or they get sworn in, I guess. That's the big provision in this.
So how do we do it right now, Debbie?
It's the first regular meeting after the certification, which means that we've always missed, we have to skip the
Okay.
first meeting in April.
Yeah.
Because the election is the first Tuesday in April, so,
Not certified.
and it's not certified until later, so then
It's
council
usually the
is,
end of the
the
month.
board has been sworn in on the second Thursday.
Well, so if, then working along those lines, we're also probably dealing with holidays if it's a November election, right?
If it's a November election, this election was certified early December.
Right.
So that would mean we have a new council sitting halfway through December.
When most meetings are canceled anyway,
Yeah,
or might be canceled anyway.
I think you see where I'm going with this.
So that's your point,
First
or
January.
I'm assuming Hillary, is your comment about year?
Yeah, I mean, there is always some uncertainty about when certification will occur and how it'll line up with your regular meeting schedule, so is it cleaner to just say first of the year?
First meeting of the new year.
So and then you have lame ducks between November and December. Hopefully your budget process is done by that point too, because you could have a lame duck council approving your budget.
So the only question I have then, is there ever a possibility that certification gets held up?
Yeah,
Sure.
In which case we just say the first meeting of the new year after certification.
Would it ever go that long into the?
That's what I'm asking.
We're about to recount one of the ones that was.
probably not.
Is
It
the,
depends on recounts.
Should we say after certification to be safe then?
Maybe something to the effect of, it should always be the first meeting of the next year, the following year, or after recount, whichever is earlier, not recount, certification, whichever is earlier.
Well, I'm.
No, I take that back, yeah, no.
Whichever's later.
Later.
I would just say
Whichever's
the
later.
first meeting of the next year, the first meeting after certification, or, and I don't know which order to put the verb, or the clauses, but
Okay, but
the
yeah, I
first
got
meeting of the
idea.
year
It's
after
the first-
certification.
Yeah, so whatever we would say, like, what would be the best legalese for after, in the new year, but after certification has been finalized?
I guess you could just say January.
But it could, what if
I guess
certification?
certification-
takes
Certification
until
gets, if there's a
February?
recount that gets.
2 or 3 recounts.
Yeah, but is that what if there's a recount?
That's
For
Exactly.
what-
for just one member?
Yeah.
And the other ones are certified,
Well, that-
and you're waiting
No,
on.
Oh, no, we're not.
No,
Certified.
ones are
Certified.
certified as a
Certified thing,
whole,
We're not
not as
partisan,
a
so
parade,
that's-
yeah.
And I think to your point, well, what was your point? I forgot what.
I made a lot of them.
Yeah, it has to be, I
Oh,
think.
the lame duck, with budget.
Mhm.
I did see some charters had, finances, I mean, that's later, I didn't dig into it much, but some of them say you have to have your agenda or your budget to the council by like September. And then we could probably put maybe something in there saying the budget must be approved by, what's the month before November, October. So,
And we can have.
I don't know
like,
if that's something we could put in there, but
If
That would be hard.
it
Okay.
feels,
Basically, it takes,
It
I
takes
mean,
a lot of months.
there's a state requirement, both statutory and home rule. Statutory, you've gotta have it by October 15th, presented to the Board of Trustees. And then typically it takes until at least Thanksgiving, sometimes into December before the,
so if we
So
moved
there's
it
always gonna be
earlier,
lame ducks.
would that help?
make it hard. Yeah, I would
Now-
have flexibility for the council and the finance staff to be able to work through the budget until early December. I mean, technically, they've got until the end of the year, but you also have issues where
The mill levy
the
certification.
mill levy certification is the key one. You don't get the final mill levy certification from the counties until early December.
And you have to vote on the budget before the new year starts.
You do,
Right.
it has to be approved. I think there's a counter to the lame duck concern, and that's that the council that's sitting is most familiar with that budget and the New Year's budget and the current needs, so maybe they're even in a better position to approve.
And you're
Right.
not, other than the first election, you're not electing a full new council.
Yeah, you do have
So-
continuing.
Yeah, so there's.
they're not completely lame ducks.
Yeah, It's only,
Just
you're gonna be.
You may have,
It's half.
I don't know, you may have a changing of the tides coming in, maybe four, like it's if we do a 3 and a 4 system, that you might have 4 new people coming in that might completely change, and not want the budget that was put in, and that would be disruptive to staff, that's certainly true. And maybe they don't need the ability to go in and sweep changes that fast either.
They
So
can
let's
amend the
let the-
budget.
Yeah, they can always amend the budget as soon as they take office.
But at least this way, we're not disrupting the process right at the end and having to go back to like square one or anything, which is a huge burden on town staff.
So what I'm hearing is that we're saying
Is it
the
not?
1st of January, only delayed if there's a certification issue. Whatever
Yeah, so
wording
it's gonna
you
be
wanna
like
put
the
in for that.
first regular meeting in January or after certification has been complete, whichever is later.
The first regular meeting of the council in the new year following final certification of the election.
In the new year, okay, that works,
Perfect.
thank you. All right,
Everyone good with that wording? Okay, cool.
Does that also count the next part of continue in office until successor stuff?
Yeah, basically it means that if you lose an election, you're not immediately out. You have to keep serving until the new people get seated and sworn in.
unless you resign, which we have seen happen.
Okay, special town elections shall be held in accordance with provision of the charter. Any special town elections must be called by resolution not less than 30 days in advance. So basically, this means the town council has the ability to call special elections for whatever reason, which they have to define, but it has to be 30-day notice.
Is 30 days enough?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Not really.
It's not.
What do you,
Because
like,
we
I
have
know
to-
I saw
'cause
40,
we-
I saw 45.
Yeah, we
What's-
have to publish it twice before the election, I believe.
Well, so the concern with tinkering with that is things like referendum and initiative that
That's true.
require you to hold the election within a certain period of time, so we would just wanna flag that to kind of cross-check.
That's a state law, that would be,
You'll be addressing
Or our
initiative and
referendum.
referendum in this charter, yeah.
Okay, but those are not considered special
They
elections. They are.
Yeah, so either can trigger a special election if there's not a regular election coming up within a certain period of days.
So what is, I know I've seen like referendums, I think I've seen referendums 40 or 45 days as well, so like, is there a hard limit? Does it have to be 30 days or does it?
Doesn't have to be,
Okay.
but I wanna point out this is not less than 30, so it can
Oh, so
be-
by ordinance it can be longer.
Right,
Right.
the resolution can be, so you have to give them, the clerk, a minimum of 30 days notice.
But I mean-
We could put anything
But
in here by then,
hopefully
for sure.
Hopefully you're giving them a lot more notice.
But what is the feasibility of doing, like coordinating and setting up?
I'm
a-
not, it depends on when it is, I would think, as
Yeah.
well, because we would have to rent the equipment, lease the equipment, get it in here, and delivery usually takes a couple weeks.
We start planning for an election, I mean, we start contacting our vendors in November
In
for an
November.
April election.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are ways to do it faster, she and I have never had to do that.
Cause they have to program the machines to read your ballots and
So
all that sort of
like
stuff, so.
at this time frame, 30 days, we're probably talking about then a hand count, right? If you can't get the machines in. Or 30,000 people hand, or we have, the town have our own like set of small machines that we keep for special elections or something like that, right?
Which we
Well,
don't
but
have.
you're,
Yeah, we don't.
cause you're allowing 30 days doesn't mean that they will do it.
Right.
Yeah, but
But
even
I understand
like,
your point.
well, we could
I-
force it to be longer.
yes,
I-
Say
I
45,
because
but-
what I'm
but
hearing
if-
is even like 30 days is very
Impossible.
rough.
I think Hillary's saying maybe we don't wanna do that.
But
I've
yeah,
seen,
yeah.
I've seen 40 in a lot of
If you
charters, so
preserve 30 as the bare minimum, you're safe, because you won't be in conflict with initiative and referendum. But I'm trying to look up those now. what those-
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's hold on that while she's looking that up then, because I don't want to undue burden on town staff, cause
We'd have to be
As we
going
get
out to
bigger-
wherever she rented those from and dragging them.
I remember, it took that long to get things printed too, you had to print the ballots.
yeah.
We
Oh,
send
yeah.
them off to a printer, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, it takes about that long to get, once we've finalized the
You have
ballot
to have the
language.
language,
Yeah.
and
So a
then you have
special
to.
election would still be handled by the town, not
Yes.
the county at all, okay.
Right, this could be like any election between regular elections.
Right, I just wanted to make sure, cause our regular elections would be county, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I wonder why they had to say that last sentence, that you have to say the purpose. It's like,
For the hell.
We're having an election.
Yes.
Are we voting on, oh.
so,
I think actually that might, if someone tried to stage a special election and delayed saying what it was about until like ballots went out. So it was like kind of a surprise, you get your ballot and you know what it's about.
yeah. I don't know,
Whereas
it just
here,
seems-
this requires you to state as you call a special election.
Yeah.
I like that wording to keep it in. We don't wanna surprise people, like, you got a ballot in the mail today, you'll figure out what you're voting on when you get it.
Again, it seems like something happened, and
Yes.
so
That's,
it's
yeah, that's
defensive
what Bob was
language.
saying, yeah.
Okay. 203, we'll hold on 202, section 3, while Hillary looks up the specific requirements. But 203, nonpartisan elections, I like that wording. I actually like, some of the charters have extended wording, where it says no municipal election ballot shall contain any language referring to any political party affiliation.
I'm
Yeah,
okay either way.
does that do the same thing, or do you just like it more detailed?
It's more specific and it says like,
So you
Like
can't
by
write, when you get to
nonpartisan.
write your name, as how
yeah,
it
you
shows
can't,
on, you
you
can't be
can't
like
change your middle
Democrat.
name to Republican. or anything like that.
or donkey, or elephant, or.
Yeah.
It's just a way of kind of enforcing that and saying it's on the ballot as
I
well.
see no problem with that.
Who's the judge of that though?
Hmm?
Who's the judge of that?
Just no political party.
I mean,
It's just,
Right, but what if you write your name as the
I'm a
Democrat?
Democrat.
Like,
I'm a
something
I mean,
you're not really running for that party, and there's not a D next to your name, but you now you're just created an alias for yourself
So
on your
this-
credit report.
State election laws actually do specify how you can put your name on the ballot.
Oh, really?
You
So the
can't put
clerk
like
could
fake
reject
titles
your-
and stuff.
your name. Cause I think for this, you couldn't put like doctor in front of your name.
Yeah,
Correct.
there was no titles or
So
anything.
if that came to you, Debbie, you'd reject it and say, send me a valid name.
But could I have made my middle name Dragon?
yeah, I made
I
my first
mean-
name Bob rather than Robert.
Just,
It's your legal name.
So, forgive me if I have a lack of knowledge on this, but we're going over elections and we're talking about it being nonpartisan. We had mentioned something about potential election finance laws.
Right.
And where would that be a good part to put, like outside money can't be coming in, I mean, cause that does affect partisanship. And I think that's very important to a lot of people.
I would flag that for a special provision, similar to the open space one, where we just kind of take it out of this and address it specifically.
Yeah, cause this is just the general like administration of elections. It's not like,
Right.
I mean, cause I'd really like to see our elections where the only money you get is from residents or local businesses, because you'd mentioned.
We
something
might
about
struggle with
commission,
that.
but-
I thought
Yeah.
I saw some charters with comments about being repealed and court cases.
yeah, this is gonna be real, especially after Citizens United.
It's tricky after Citizens United.
Yeah.
Well, right,
So
yeah.
I agree with you, but it's
So
gonna
maybe,
be
yeah.
hard to do it right.
It's worth looking, I think it's worth looking at, and I think with a little bit of preparation, I can give you some boundaries where
Okay.
it would work.
Where nothing like Citizens United would happen here on our small local level.
I mean, I might after a little research come back and say, yeah, no, don't touch it, but at this point, I can't tell you if there is a part of it that you can regulate safely or not.
So let's
Thank you.
flag that as a topic for
Yeah.
future discussion and research per your time.
Literally overturning that.
But okay, so does anyone have any
So the question
thoughts
is, do we
about
wanna
this partisanship question?
to add the extra
Yeah,
sentence? I've
cause
no
like
problem adding it.
as 203 is written, what does it actually mean? Like, what does it mean that an election is nonpartisan?
Just means that political parties can't have candidates or an effect on the election.
Right, But does it say like you can't put your, like, would that preclude people from putting their political affiliation on their,
Well, so that's
Yes.
her
No,
job to
it
catch
would,
that.
it would,
Yes.
okay,
That's what we have right now.
okay,
And so you can't put your party on.
okay.
Yeah.
So is this like pretty much copy pasted from current like statutory, like state statutes for for statutory towns? For as it's written?
Yeah.
Okay, then keep it, don't touch it.
Okay.
Anyone feel strongly any other way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets the point across in
Yeah,
5 words.
I had just seen something else where it had the extra wording and I didn't know if that like kind of drove it home or not, but okay. Then recall,
Hold on, before we start there, can we go back to the other one and finish it?
are you,
Yeah, so
Okay.
the charters that we're using for reference remove the stringent day requirements that are in state law about initiative and referendum. So that takes care of my concern about whether you wanna lengthen 30 days, I think you can, but
okay,
you also don't need to lengthen it because, as we said, it's setting the floor, not.
right. So
But
does
I
it mean
still
what-
think it'd be worth extending the floor.
Yeah, if like our town staff is telling us it would be extremely difficult to get a good election organized and administered in 30 days, I would say
Yeah,
let's extend it.
I agree with you. This protects the people, the citizens, from having a
That's what I was
sloppily
thinking.
conducted election, and because
Really
some
rush it.
council is trying to rush something.
Yeah.
And
Exactly, that's what I was thinking for extending it.
So
I mean, and
if-
I think if they were to propose it and I was to try and go get equipment and it wasn't gonna get here till after the election, they would have to not do it, so.
So would 45 or 60 be better?
Most of the other ones I've seen 40 and 45. I don't think I saw anything at 60.
And that's just less than 45, so it could
Yeah,
be more.
it's just protecting, yeah, like you said, protecting residents from some council who wants to push through something and forces it to be done sloppily or quickly.
I would feel better with 45 than 40, but
Yeah, I'm okay, I like 45, it's a better number than
Yeah.
40.
40 just seems like a weird number for something like this.
And I guess are these generally calendar days?
That's option.
Yeah, unless you're just gonna specify business days, I would read it to be calendar days.
But then business days might change to 4-day work weeks, right? Okay, so proposal then is to change our minimum time for special elections to be 45 days.
Yep.
All good?
And we're gonna keep in to set the purpose.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
definitely, please.
I don't think that way, I'm sorry.
I know, right?
It's like those warning labels on everything,
Yeah.
right? It's because something happened.
Don't drink this bleach.
Okay, last
So
section,
recall.
then recall.
So the main question I have on recall is just a point that the section, in this case, should be a placeholder. Because we don't know it's gonna be section 11-12,
Well, that was, so I looked at 11-12 and it's just.
but we may reorder things and stuff.
Right,
So I'm just saying, leave it as a placeholder.
Well, recall, like, that's just kind of additional provisions governing recalls, like for in 11-12.
Right, and I'm for that. What I'm saying is, just make a note that we're,
All cross-references will be checked.
yes, exactly, that's all.
Yeah, I see what you're
Just
saying.
word and use the cross-reference.
So-
So just auto updates.
My big thing here was I don't like the 6-month wording because that's vague. 6 months I don't like because it's vague. It could be 6 complete months or,
180 days.
Someone have 180 days.
yeah,
just do
that's what I was
180
gonna
days.
propose is just make it 180 days, just so it's hard. Completion of 180 days in office and you're.
Business days?
And do we have to
I don't know,
say
you're the one that's-
after?
To include holidays?
You're the one
It
being
has
recalled.
implied, because you don't take office until,
They're certified.
right.
So.
It's just implied.
Yeah, proposing
after
changing this
certification.
180 days, it's the same amount of time, but it's better defined in my opinion.
Well, and then there's another section where there's much more
Swearing
freedom.
They're not in office
So could
until they're
this be
sworn
there?
in, yeah.
So after swearing in,
This
okay.
just be, could we just refer to that other section?
That's what I was talking about. We
Like,
do-
once we go into specifics on how the recall is conducted and how their replacement is chosen and stuff like that.
But we could just say
This feels
recall
like-
is allowed per section.
That's what I'm
Without
saying.
the time period.
Why, this is one of those stipulations, why not put all the stipulations in that section and just, with this, area, say recalls allowed?
That's a good question, like, I've noticed that a lot, and their recalls are specified here, but then expanded on in a separate section, is that some,
It's because, it's kind of how we've talked about pulling stuff out and addressing it later, it's just
That's a special provision.
you're kind of just like getting through the nuts and bolts in these early articles, and then you're kind of like saving the details for later. But it's really just a preference.
okay. So we can leave it here, and then once we get to the part where we're talking about recalls, we can decide we don't need the part in Article 2, cause we're gonna define it all down there.
No, I don't think that was the question. I think the question was, do we specify 6 months or 180 days here, or leave that specific point to the other
I think
section?
you're both saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Saying it slightly different. So
Yeah.
Ash is saying, when we write this, if we write in this 180-day thing, then we can come back up here and take it out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
we're just, that was just one of the things I wanted to get
Okay,
in,
we're in
because
agreement then.
when I was looking up the 6-month thing, I couldn't find hard reference on whether it's like,
6 months.
yeah, like, is it 6 complete months? So if they take power middle of January, does that mean they have, that January doesn't count because it's not a full month, or, you know, just,
Either way.
Middle of July then, but I don't know.
yeah.
That's what I would think.
Okay, so yeah, just 180 days, we'll change that wording. I know, I saw that in Louisville, they had voting hours defined in this section. Like, they had like,
Poll shall be open from
That's
7
weird.
to 7.
Yeah.
That's weird.
and I wonder if that was like just a holdover from
Probably.
before universal mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I think so. I've done some charter commission cleanup stuff, like Englewood most recently, where they had, their charter didn't even anticipate mail ballots because it
No.
was just
Okay.
There's something that bothers me a little bit though that I just read. You're entitled to vote for a successor. It doesn't say you're gonna vote for the recall. There's
No,
typically.
that's how many people have to be,
Oh, wait, okay, maybe I
Yeah.
misread it.
Entitled to
who
vote.
can,
By the
who can
electors
call for,
entitled to vote for, okay,
basically, who can vote for, call
Right,
for a
gotcha.
recall is
Yeah.
someone who's
Yes,
able to vote
alright.
for that
Gotcha.
office. So like someone from
Understood,
Louisville
yep.
can't.
I misread it. Thank you.
Okay. And I think another charter, also Louisville, had the nomination threshold expanded in this section. So rather than the statutory 10, right? If we wanted to, would this be the best place to put it, where we
I
wanted to?
would say Article 3, just under the current organization, I think it would make more sense under the Article 3.
Like when you're talking about the bill or the makeup of the council and then how you get nominated for that council role or. Okay.
I mean, I felt like it would, okay, I can defer to that, but I thought it was like, this has to do with the election process, right? Cause you're,
But it's specific to town council.
that's true, so it's not all, so this is more general, all elections, okay, I get it.
I'd like to note that it's 8:30 and we haven't talked about our next agenda.
Yes, that's what I was looking at as well, but, okay. I think that's it for this section, or this agenda so far. Do we wanna rehash what we have, I guess, what's the word, tentatively decided? Town of Erie, council manager form of government, town council, defer open space section to somewhere later. Changing the wording for authority of utilities to public works and so on. Article 2 will.
Actually, could I go to the council manager, since there were so many questions about what is a council manager form of government? The Castle Pines charter goes a little bit farther and says, I'll read it. Let's see. It says, The municipal government provided by this charter shall be a council manager form of government pursuant to the charter provisions and subject only to the limitations imposed by the Constitution of the state of Colorado. All powers shall be vested in an elected city council, which shall enact local legislation, adopt budgets, determine policies, and appoint the city manager, who shall execute the laws and administer the city government. All powers of the city shall be exercised in a manner prescribed by this charter, or if the manner be not so prescribed, then in a manner as may be prescribed by ordinance, resolution, or motion as provided by other applicable law. So it very clearly says the power is vested in the city council or the town council, and the manager is executing it according to those laws. So it gives a little bit more, here's what a council manager form is.
Instead of making the assumption that we can find the definition elsewhere on Wikipedia or something like
Is
that.
that defined
they actually
somewhere?
Well,
have the
I
definition.
mean, it is once, if you read the town council article and description of the town manager duties, you'll get there, but it's not quite as succinct as that.
Yeah,
So
and
which charter
the
was
very
that?
next section, Castle
Council
Pines.
signs.
The very next section talks about the elective officers and the city council and the mayor or town council, whatever. And that's where they go into districts and terms, and they talk specifically about powers of the mayor pro tem. So I think it's something we can look at. Powers of the council.
And that's definitely what our agenda's gonna be next week.
Why? Because next week is the elected offices, and you're saying more clarity in this section would help, even though we're gonna be defining those things later.
Yeah, just the discussion we had earlier, it made me think,
Yeah, because that was confusion.
shouldn't there be a very clear definition of what council manager
Yeah.
means?
Yeah, especially since there
I like
isn't a clear definition at the state level either.
I'd say it doesn't really matter because we're defining it, although it does help.
It's like
I
a
think
summary.
it does help
Yeah.
with the summary.
Yeah.
But I argue if we write something in there that we'd have to make sure that it matches with the rest of the stuff, so. And I guess the way Brian's trying to keep things simple, just adding more words for that, I don't know if it's. I don't know
I think
what value it adds.
Look this
I think
stuff
it
up and
adds
we're so
clarity.
confused, so
Okay.
like-
In this case, I agree in keeping things simple, but in this case, we had a lot of discussion. And I know I had the misconception at the beginning as to, does council manager include mayor, for example? And this just spells it out.
So how about we leave it as is, and as we go through and define the powers in a later section and the actual roles, then we can kind of come back and re-summarize what we've said in this section. And so like, then we have more concrete things to point to as to say like, our form of government will be this pursuant to sections, whatever, later in the charter. And so that way, the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined already in there. And then we don't have to come back and cross-reference, make sure what we've said later on fits that section.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to keep it as a to-do.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure we have that as a to-do to come back.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do elective officers next time anyway, next week, it'll be fresh in our heads.
Okay. Where was that one? So, oh yeah, Article 2. Article X, we'll revisit the order as we go through. We've settled on odd years with an asterisk that we'll revisit when, if the transition comes out to be too hard. November, we're gonna use the wording from the state level elections, which is the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. 45 days minimum to call a special election. And the recall, we're gonna say have to be in power for 180 days rather than 6 months. Did I miss anything? The nonpartisan option, we'll keep that. And, oh yeah, the wording for the, when they take office, it's gonna be the first regular meeting of the year following, or the January following the,
Just the new year or something.
Well,
yeah, do we
so it came
call
with
out the
good
month?
words.
No,
It
you
would
say,
just,
it's just the first, I'll get back there.
the first regular
It's,
meeting of the year,
Yeah,
After certification.
first regular meeting of the council in the new year following final certification of the election.
there you go, okay, so yeah, we'll change that wording.
And honestly, we might not need to worry about going back to that last subject if we're changing the order and putting, you know, elected offices before elections, we probably wouldn't need to make that distinction then, cause we'd over that. But anyways, sorry,
Okay.
discuss it next week.
One comment I have is a lot of other charters have many more provisions in their elections articles. I'm not proposing we add any at the moment, but I think especially if we're talking about elected offices next week.
Yeah,
And I don't think we are planning on closing off any of these at any point until the end. So I just like to make a note, some of these have like 15 sections.
so noted. I noticed that like a lot of the older ones is where they go into way more like legalese verbiage, and it's like more of the recent ones, it's very simple and it's more, I guess as different provisions have been tested, they figured out which is the bare minimum wording you can get away with and still have that legal power and authority. Okay, then that concludes everything we said we would go through today. What do we have to do next then? Just call for adjournment, or
Well,
we
no,
We
we'll
talked
talk about the
about what
agenda.
you want on the
Yeah.
agenda for next week.
agenda for next week, that's right.
Does that need to live on an agenda item to set the agenda, or do we just assume that it's always gonna be there?
You can do it without, but if you'd feel more organized, if you had one, you could certainly do that too.
I almost forgot.
I can add another
Thank
one,
you.
so we just add, discuss stuff.
Next
Topics for
meeting
next-
agenda or something?
Next
Yeah.
week's agenda.
And Ash, did you wanna build in for future meetings, the like look back period?
Yeah, I noted that, I was
Did you
gonna,
know
that'll be
that?
the
Okay.
first item under
Yeah.
general business.
I think we don't have to do it for every meeting unless we,
We can just,
Some-
we can have it as a standing item
that-
that you can say, does anybody wanna revisit anything from the prior,
right, cause we're all gonna be doing research as we go through, so if there, I proposed specifically because Chelsea wasn't gonna be here and I wanted to make sure she had a chance to weigh in on stuff like that we talked about. So part of the lead into each meeting, we're gonna have a section where people can revisit topics from last time.
So our draft talked about doing 3 things next week: public meetings, elections, and recall, initiative, and referendum.
Like I said, we based that off the Castle Pines, and so since you guys are now doing
Right.
the Eagle, I don't know that should even be referenced anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna
is.
say, because we talked about elections, let's talk about elected offices.
Yes.
And I think that'll probably take the whole meeting. So I'm gonna say it's probably gonna, if we can put in
Referendum?
recall initiative and
Recall,
referendum,
right.
because that kind of flows from elections as well. But I'm gonna say let's try to keep elected offices as the main topic, and if we don't get to recall, that'll be fine.
I think that makes
So
sense.
for my purposes, for elected offices, that covers town council, mayor, wards,
Yes.
that kind of thing, referendum initiative.
That's great.
Mayor, did I already say mayor? So there's
Yes.
distinction of mayor, okay.
So yeah, that'll be where we decide, mayor, how they're elected, whether we're doing
Qualification.
district.
What about town attorney, town judge?
Those are appointed officials, those are usually handled separately.
Town administration section, is what I see,
Yeah.
where it talks through all that.
Separate section.
So yeah, let's elections and recall initiative and referendum.
Sounds good.
See how far we get.
That's it.
And as far as people we would like here, elections, so that would be you, unfortunately, Debbie. And Malcolm, I don't know if we require your presence, but you're always welcome to come.
Do we wanna talk about your
Yeah.
availability?
So we have a budget restriction that that looks like I can attend monthly, but not more often than that. Based on the legal budget, which was already set for 2023, it relies on once a month. So I can plan to attend monthly. It can be a set time, or you can decide each month which meeting of the month it's gonna be, but that means no me next time. Unless there are months down the road where I don't. So
Is there someone you can send?
it would still cost you money. We don't have free attorneys.
Did you say the budget for 2023 is what limits this?
Both.
22
So I mean, most of the home rule budget is in 2023, I think, right? But there is a portion in 2022.
I think there's a lot of value add with your presence, so is there something we could
Do we have to get the board to expand the budget?
request, like a
Well, it's also
variance?
yeah, I don't think you guys need me here. I think you can be, I think I can review and
So we just have to like consolidate legal questions like we had today.
yeah, or just kind of reframe how you think of it and flag stuff that you have questions for that I can prepare answers for. So it just might change how you do things. I don't think I,
Since you're writing it, we'd
Yeah.
also need to be writing the wording that we want and send that. off to
no,
you.
that's why the legal assistant is gonna listen to the meetings the next
Oh, okay.
day. So
Okay.
she's gonna report back, or I can watch the live stream if I have questions, but yeah. So meeting attendance and drafting were meant to be separate.
So on that point, I think I half watched the live stream from last meeting and the audio quality was,
Yeah, they have upped the mic in here. And they also said that, she said you can tell anybody that because they didn't up the mic for the first meeting, if you listen to that first meeting with headphones, she said it sounds better. Cause I did the same thing, I went to listen to it, I was like, kept turning it up, like I can't hardly hear, but they did,
Fix it for this meeting.
yeah, she adjusted it for this meeting.
Is there anything that we can do to change that and have Hillary's presence? I'm concerned. I don't wanna spend a whole 2 hours discussing stuff and coming to a vote and then her coming and being like, that's totally
Because
illegal, you guys.
the question we had today was like about changing that minimum for special elections, and we didn't even think that there would be like a legal requirement that we couldn't do that.
Well, but they're, so, I mean, as we've talked about, this is an open draft, so.
Yeah.
That I would have the opportunity to advise you when I was drafting that something was a bad idea, or to
Right.
flag it.
But per Candace's point, we could have spent like our entire meeting discussing something that you just come back and say, sorry, legally not allowed.
Yeah.
I think if Malcolm is able to be here, I think he's probably, my understanding, forgive me if for making assumptions, I think you have enough experience that you could at least help guide the conversations. While you may not be an actual lawyer, you could probably help redirect.
Flag things that might have a.
Save
Yes,
some
maybe
time and money
yes.
with the lawyer later.
Yeah, maybe redirect, like if we're going way too far off course, maybe help redirect.
Between the three of you, we should have enough.
I think
we
all
can do
staff,
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and we
and you're
can-
gonna have subject matter staff experts at each of these, so they're gonna know what's off the wall and know what to flag.
Yeah, and other departments know some of their legal requirements as well, but maybe even better than I do, so, if they're in here,
We can
yeah.
handle it that way.
Okay.
I think you
So-
guys are more capable than you realize.
We just like
Just
to
don't
err on
wanna
the
waste
side
our
of
time.
caution.
Bob?
Yeah,
I think
maybe we do the open space like we may want Patrick, I don't know,
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so.
I think these are the limitations that we have, so we need to try to work within them, and if things go really sideways, then we
Yeah.
push for something else. We
I
asked
mean-
the trustees to give us a little bit more budget, but let's work with what we got for now.
Okay, concur.
And maybe we can put together a full schedule for each of the charter sections going out to May 5th so that we
Yeah.
can start scheduling.
Yeah, we'll
department
go back and
members.
revisit it because until last week, we weren't aware that you guys were gonna use the Eagle Charter. So Debbie and I'll work on that and have it for you next week.
including public comment
Yep.
periods on the.
Yep. Yeah, well, we'll make the every Thursday, or the every third
Thursday.
Thursday,
Yeah.
the public comment.
Probably don't need you.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, that one would be a good one for me not to be at.
Not the official public hearing, but the space for public comment. Do you guys want that third Thursday to always be a public hearing?
I think we'll schedule it that
Or
way.
just, okay, or just comment, public comment.
Just
Well,
comment.
okay, so I think that you only need to have one
A
hearing.
public hearing is very formal.
Right, so I think, just save the hearing for when you have like a draft that you.
For the full draft, but
And the only reason we asked is last week they talked about having a public hearing more often than just that one.
Right, but I think that might have been.
Yeah, that
the
was-
word hearing without understanding the like implications of hearing.
Yeah, I don't, we
Just
weren't
like- we like
separating
lawyers
comment,
or-
public comment to public hearing, we weren't separating that.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
think it could almost be, we have our public comment at the beginning like we normally do, and then maybe, or we discuss something for that day, because who knows how many public are gonna show up.
Right.
Yeah,
And then if we have something at the end, or maybe even in the middle,
okay. All right,
Okay.
I think we're all set then. Move to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
You have a second?
We just walk away.
All in favor, let's go.
I
Thought we decided we didn't have to do that when it was time to go.
Thank you everyone for sticking a little bit longer.
yeah, you'll just leave your glasses on the table with them.